This call is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, please disconnect at this time.
Good day. I am the voice of We Provoke Thought. And normally, for my listeners, I would begin by telling you that this is a recorded call or a random call with a subject or a caller, a listener, and I would go into my spiel. And a lot of you have sounded off on that. You can't stand that long, overdrawn safety or default message that I put out in front. But it's an identifier. It's necessary. But today, this call is going to be a lot different. I would like to provide my listeners with a level of transparency in the fact that this particular call today, folks, is not a random call. This call here is an actual scheduled call with a gentleman that I call a dear friend to me, and one in which I feel as though deserves to be a part of the We Provoke Thought movement, organization, and show. I will call these folks, these friends or educators of mine, provocative thinkers. And I will introduce him as the thought. And before I begin, I would like to just let everyone know that We Provoke Thought is an organization and show that is looking to be the platform for all those who have an opinion, idea, or educated information to share to the world, an outlet to voice your feelings and facts. So I'm going to greet you. How are you doing? And again, I'm introducing you as the thought. But as I always do, I like to let everyone know the demographics in which we deal with. So if you would, please let everyone know what city and state that you're in.
How you doing, brother? Thanks for having me. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland.
All right. And again, this is the thought. And for those listening and for all the listeners, the thought will be a very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? A very prominent guest, if you will, or host on the We Provoke Thought show. So you'll hear a lot more of the thought, and he will be engaging in a lot of the conversations that I'll be having with random callers. But today, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce the thought to everyone else. I am the voice of We Provoke Thought, and this gentleman here is the thought of We Provoke Thought. And today, I'm just going to basically sit back. We're going to have the dialogue here and allow the world to hear what we think and allow the world to see just what does the thought bring to the table. So how are you doing again, sir?
I'm doing very well, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. Well, I'm going to bring you up to speed on some of the subjects and calls that we've had. I'm going to start from our last call, which was based on emasculation of men, or feminization of men. This topic was quite heated along the East Coast there. I even had a nice call from the West Side that I'm going to be publishing shortly in reference to the feminization or emasculation of men. But this is a trending topic right now and something that is, at the forefront with a lot of what we got going on, from skinny jeans to the metrosexual terminology that is used out there to, in some cases, make it favorable or acceptable. And moving from there, not too long, I had a news posting of Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts Board Education Division there. They were voting 5-1 on the distribution of condoms to children as young as 12 years of age. And a lot of folks had to sound off on that one there. That drew a lot of attention. And surprisingly, a lot of folks was with it. They were for it. I haven't posted any of those that were against it yet, but that will be coming soon. So please tune in, everyone, to the We Provoke Thought Facebook fan page. Like that so that you can get updates and leave comments on any of the subjects that were raised, or even if you just want to discuss on the quality of the show itself, and also on the YouTube channel, We Provoke Thought. And moving from there, I've always had an issue with family and how the family is just totally being destroyed from so many different angles. I mean, just the topics in which we discussed just or that I've raised just now with the handing out of condoms to our 12-year-old children and to the feminization of men, all of that goes right back to family or affects family. We have the privacy issue that our President Obama had addressed the world, if you will, after Edward Snowden had forced their hand. And it's funny, I mentioned earlier in this call that I wanted to provide the listeners with a level of transparency by letting them know that this was not a random call, but an actual scheduled call. And I cringed when I said that, a level of transparency, because I remember quite vividly the first election of our President Obama. That was something that he promised the American public, transparency within the government. And we had not gotten that until Edward Snowden again forced their hand. And now they want to paint him as a traitor or a criminal. And I'd love to hear later on your thoughts on that as well. But again, I do not want to do all the talking. I want the folks, the listeners, to hear just how the thought thinks. So go ahead, my brother, and introducing yourself. And we could start off with any topic. Again, I don't limit anyone to any topic in which they wish to discuss this. I just like to point out various areas where we can lay our head. But where would you like to begin?
Well, I'd like to begin just to let you know that I'm the type of person that does everything from an African perspective. I think that everything begins and starts with Africans, no matter what it is, especially in America, whether it be drugs, whether it be sex, whether it be rock and roll, whether it be laws. It always starts with us. Even you were talking about privacy, the spy game. That started with us, spying on us. Just to give you an example, they spied on Martin Luther King when he was in college. That was 15 years before the March on Washington. They were spying on him. They spied on his grandfather. So because he said that we need to have segregated schools in the South. So the spy game is nothing new to Africans, in this country. I don't think we need to be concerned with them. I live in Baltimore. I ride around the city. I see cameras, blue light cameras throughout the city. I go into the suburbs. They're not there. So I don't understand, why we don't understand that all of these things are aimed at us. And if we know this, then we should know the perpetrators and we should know how to deal with it. And that's basically it. Every concern in this, even the terrorists, even terrorism, the laws of terrorism are, imposed on us more than they are the so-called perpetrators of 9/11. So,
right. Well, before you go any further, and I'll let you move on, I just want to point out, because you did mention the March on Washington with Martin Luther King, and for our listeners, again, I like to always provide, supportive information or reject that information by challenging it or what have you. But in this case, the March on Washington is coming up with we have a anniversary coming up with the March on Washington, a 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, which will be on August 28th. So basically 50 years from today, on August 28th, I believe it was 1963, was the original day and time of the March on Washington. So for those in the D.C. area, for those that aren't in the D.C. area but willing to travel out for this monumental memory here, commemorate, if you will, the March on Washington will take place on August 28th in D.C., in Washington, D.C. So I just wanted to, you mentioned that, you immediately sparked my mind, or shall I say, you provoked me to think. So I wanted to point that out. But yeah, moving back or giving it back to you, you were talking about how terrorism, how we're affected, or blacks are affected more by terrorism than the actual perpetrators of 9/11 was your statement.
Yeah, they it's funny how during the high terror alert, that little phony crap they had on the news where the terror alert was high and the terror alert was low, and they spent millions of dollars perpetuating that crap. And not once did you ride down the highway and see any Arabs pulled over, searched and seized. They didn't go in their houses or anything. That's a game. That's the same thing with the war on drugs, the war on terrorism, the war. All is always the war on us. White people have.
And just say, no, don't apologize. Again, we provoke thought, and for that, we do not apologize, even though it has nothing to do with provoking thought. But I wanted, again, every time you say something, I'm going to try to spin on it. You mentioned how in 9/11, during the 9/11 or after the whole 9/11 event, that you didn't see, you said Arabs being stopped and frisked and things like that, and you said that. We or blacks are dealing with this a whole profiling a lot more than the perpetrators or the so-called perpetrators of 9/11. Because I already have I have my reserves on the whole 9/11 event to begin with. But nonetheless, in New York, and I'm quite sure you're aware of the whole stop and frisk issue that is going on there.
Right.
Speak on that.
I mean, well, again, that's just been going on. It has nothing to do with really laws per se. The laws are just represent our relationships with white people in this country. It is a slave master relationship, and that's how slave masters treat their slaves. No one else deals with it. Asians don't deal with it. Arabs don't particularly deal with it. It's just something that we deal with because we have to realize that white people have a problem with us, and that's never going to change as far as I'm concerned. So if you look on the news and they're talking about spying, they're talking about us. We're the ones. We're it. I mean, we make their lives worth living, and they come out and this is what they do. They got to talk about this, and they're going to be doing this, and they're going to be using microchips, and they're going to be doing all of this and all of this. And black folks, we talk about it like they're talking about everybody. No, they're just talking about us, basically. And that's what they do. They work it on us, and if they can make enough money to keep it with us, that's what they do. And I mean, you look at the FBI. I mean, in Hoover, he made his living. He built the FBI. The whole corporation with the civil rights movement. I mean, it's just amazing that we don't see these things. It starts and begins with us, and that's always been my motto. Everything starts and stops with us, and that's a plus and as well as a minus.
All right. Well, and going back with what you said with Hoover, I'd like to point out that, like for instance, with faculty members or groups such as the Black Panther, if you want to talk about a group of people or just folks that were being investigated illegally, legally, however you want to look at it, I mean, the FBI's conduct and federal leadership that tolerated it. At times, it requested in part of the legacy of the 1960s, during the whole movement of the Black Panthers. You have, the achievements, such positive achievements as of, I think around like 1964 with the Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act. You had when the FBI stood against black people, so did the government, basically. And, a lot of these so-called constitutional rights, civil rights, they seem to be easily infringed upon when dealing with blacks. Is that basically your stand?
Yeah. They got cameras set up in the black communities, in the city, in urban areas specifically. Ain't no civil rights going on there. Nobody marching there. No one's fighting for anything. They're just killing each other. So what really are the cameras there for? What is this spy game really about? Like, you understand what I'm saying?
I do,
what is it?
But I want to be clear. I want folks to understand that your position is truly sound. I mean, you're not one coming from a perspective of you got to be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but Frosted Flakes is great. You're not the one that believes that the green olives are put in a jar for a reason, but the black olives are put in cans.
Right.
I just don't want folks to think that that's your position, that you have sound beliefs and also facts to substantiate your feelings and your position, and that it's not just a matter of the joked about black on white or white on black conspiracy, But go ahead, but continue on.
Yeah, I mean, we can call it a conspiracy or whatever you choose to call it, but I mean, all in all, it's just the mere relationship between us and whites, and whites control the resources. They control the land. They determine public policy, and all of this stuff affects us while we're here, and that's, they even control on how Arabs deal with us. They control how Asians deal with us. They control the relationship of black folks with everyone, and and that's the thing we're not seeing. Is this is why all of these things are inflicted on us, because we don't understand how white people truly see us. It doesn't have to be somebody in the government. It doesn't have to be a state official. It doesn't have to be an FBI agent. It's your neighbor. If they all treat us the same exact way, if you just
all right. So what do you say? What do you say to that white male or female that says, wait a minute now, I love black people just as much as I love white folks. I have just as many black friends or as I have white friends, or I don't really even see color. I don't mistreat black folks. I mean, and let's be clear also, there's no denying that during these movements, not even just during the civil rights movement, but let's move farther back to slavery. During slavery, there were white folks that helped blacks escape and helped and wanted to help fight and fought alongside black folks in towards their freedom. So what do you say to that person, if that's their position and their true honest and honorable position? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that person? Because there's not just one. There's a lot of them out there that think and feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Many people, or some people, may know John Brown. John Brown thought slavery was wrong. He did the same thing. But I will ask people, because people will assume that John Brown wasn't racist. I say it doesn't. Good behavior doesn't. I could be burning up in my house. A white man come in here and save me out of my house does not mean he's not a racist. John Brown led slave revolts against white people during slavery. John Brown's army, or the people that followed him, were black. John Brown was not interested and did not recruit anybody white to help. The black people were behind his campaign. He had this thing about him, like Martin Luther King or Marcus Garvey, where people gravitated to his voice, his words, his plan, and so he was able to get some things done. Yes, okay, white folks did help.
Let me interrupt you right there, because here again, we provoke thought, and for that we do not apologize. And the one thing I like to point out for everyone is that I want you all to take the information that is being given to you on any of these shows for face value. I challenge each and every listener to take the information that is provided and to do their own back research, because confirmation is affirmation. I can tell you all day long, I can spit facts at you all day long, but if you don't backlog and if you do not go and research it for yourself, then it's just as bad as if I just told you a lie and you taking that for what it is. Again, you cannot just take everything here and assume it as the truth. So again, my challenge to all listeners is to take this information that is being provided, and before you digest it, when you ingest it, to again do your own homework, your own research on it. And just to point out, you mentioned the name John Brown. John Brown was an American abolitionist, abolitionist who believed armed insurrections was the only way to overthrow the institution of slavery in the United States. Now, John Brown had commanded forces at the Battle of Blackjack and the Battle of Osawatomie. Brown's followers also killed pro-slavery supporters. So, I mean, you're speaking about a very notable man, an abolitionist, that I bet you if we had gone into the public streets and asked, who's John Brown, half of them would have probably thought it was a drink that you could mix with Coke. Coke. So, I mean, just to point that out again, but I apologize for interrupting you, but again, I like to always provide information that is either supportive or challenging when you provide information that I think will provide provocative thoughts. So go ahead, continue on there.
Yeah, so, I mean, not only him, but, there were the Quakers who fought slaveocracy for the purpose of promoting Christianity, which is another white entity. So, look, the bottom line is when white folks have a problem with white folks get together. They'll bring Asians, blacks, whoever with them, and they'll go kick the other white folks' butt. Okay, that's how they work. That's how you handle, problems of policy or economics in this world. So if white folks have a problem with anything going on with black folks, they have to work it out within themselves. You don't let them come out of their community and try to talk in your community and like you got the problem. Anytime they come out of their community and start talking to us about racism, you got to run them out of there. Like, listen, you need to go talk to your people because we don't have the power to be racist. So go talk to your people and do something. You don't find white people doing that. They don't gather together and say, hey, we're going to deal with what they're doing to black folks, what we are doing to black folks here in America, even today. I mean, some people don't want to deal with slavery. It's too painful. Okay, so deal with what's going on today. The most resourceful land in Africa is not run by Africa. The most resourceful people in the world, African Americans, are living in the projects. It makes absolutely no sense unless there is a perpetrator of it. And that's the thing we have to look into, dig into, and kind of like say, hey, we need to look at it more objectively here. We need to look at this differently. We're not doing that. We're taking everything as it comes at us by the same people who's bringing it to us. They're telling us how to look at it. That's where the change has to come. So with anything, whether it be spying, whether it be Trayvon, whether it's giving condoms to children, we have to look at it as another racist ploy by white people. That's just the bottom line. I mean, there's no one else controlling the condom industry. You can't distribute a condom without going through them. You can't distribute alcohol without going through them. So why do we keep blaming ourselves for these things when we don't control them? It makes no sense. Stop blaming yourself. Stop looking at it. When my child is out there having sex, your child is having sex because your child is out of his culture and into other people's culture, and they're being trained to have sex. Bottom line. That's it. Anytime you got to put a parental control on your remote control for television, that means that they're pushing stuff in your child's ear and eyes that they should not be. and that's the bottom line.
Indeed. All right. Now, we allowed a lot of time to elapse, but I believe that some very good information was given across the airwaves this time. I also wanted to touch upon, and we could do this quickly, the emasculation of men, because this is one of the key topics, trending topics right now. So quickly, if you would, just touch upon that, and tell me your thoughts on the emasculation or the feminization of men, and where that's leading, and who's to blame for that.
The feminization of black men. I mean, whichever way you want to inflict it on them, with via chemicals or or mind warfare, whatever way you want to do it. It is to destroy black families, control the black population, and basically destroy men. I mean, one it's a yin and a yang, or whatever you call it. One cannot survive without the other. Our women are now talking without us, and so black men don't necessarily talk that way, but we behave that way. So now we kind of got this whole feminization going on, and I mean, the thing that's hurtful for me is to see that black women accept it. They accept black men feminization now. They accept it. They're okay with it. They call them their good girlfriends and all of this kind of stuff. A woman should be outraged by a man imitating her or looking like her or anything, and she needs to want to get to the bottom of it. There's no sit here, a man has a right or a person has a right to do this and do that, and then you got these same people going to church and these same people talking to you about God, and this stuff is immoral, it's crazy, it's sick, and for some reason, whatever reason, black folks are finding ministers and all of this, they're finding a way to say to the world, it's okay now, and so we don't have anywhere to go to dispute morality anymore. Everybody is just like okay with everything, So
right.
The feminization of men is accepted. They've been working on it for a while, and I mean it's really it's getting big. They're using hip hop, which is it's too bad. All that hip hop is done.
I'm gonna stop you right there. Because that's another trending subject that we will be discussing later on. I'd just like to close with my point on, especially with the emasculation of men. A lot of folks like to look at it from a spiritual standpoint. Some folks like to look at it as from a health standpoint as well. And I'm one who I try to be as non-biased as possible, but I always want to provide provocative thoughts. I always want to provide facts that you will have to do the research on to find for yourself. And there's no denying that there are poisons being put in our foods that are changing us all. I pointed out in a previous call how soy and bisphenol A. And again, I challenge our listeners to look this information up. But for instance, soy. Soy was once never a agricultural product, a product that was used in our food. Soy was a product that was used in industrial needs. Now we have our foods are laden with soy in them, as well as the products and things that carry our food are laden with chemicals that are just totally changing our chemical, our physical makeup. Soy, it contains chemicals such as isoflavones, and which is specifically genistein and daidazine. These are like estrogen-like substances. So I guess, if you will, to simplify it, soy is a estrogen mimicker. So you figure when we eat lots of soy, we become estrogenic. It contributes to some problems as cancer, and other issues with the thyroids, and women have a lot of issues with fibroids. Well, you need to start looking into these soy-laden products that we are ingesting. And you look at in Japan, there were studies done where they are connecting soy with Alzheimer's disease as well. But as for men, because we're talking about the feminization of men, high soy intake for men increases the probability of estrogen dominance in them. So here we know that if you change the chemical balance of a woman, you have changed that woman. You change the chemical makeup of a man, you will change that man. No matter how you try to look at it. From a spiritual standpoint, I stand firmly with that. But at the same time, we also have to understand that with the devil working, he has many demons that are working as well with him. So, I just like to always point that out, but I also like to give you the last word before we come to a close. Is there anything you would like to say to the We Provoke Thought audience there?
Yeah, well, I just like to tell people to stay informed and stay on top and love. And if black folks, just love who you are, love your culture, love your history, because it's beautiful. It's the only thing beautiful in this world. To me, most of it, the only thing sincere when you look enough into it. So keep doing what you're doing, brother. I love it, and hopefully others will be influenced by it, and we can provoke some thought, and that will lead to some sort of change in things.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I thank you as well. Here we provoke thought, and for that, we do not apologize. I ask for all of you to join We Provoke Thought on this mission, making this journey ours. May we own more than just the movement or the moment, but the movement. I am the voice. I thank you all, and I'll say goodbye to you on the other end with the thought.
This call has been recorded.